a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with a very rare condition called Moyamoya, and that condition basically causes your veins that, or your arteries that supply blood to your brain to shut off, and eventually you have no blood to your brain, which means you die. So, to kind of say it very straightforward. And when I found out, I had to get surgery immediately for it, and I knew that was the proper choice because either I had the surgery or I'm just a ticking time bomb. So I had the surgeries; they were very successful. But in the aftermath of those surgeries, I was unable to talk and to communicate. I was unable to use my motor functions. Like I couldn't really move my arms, or I couldn't really properly move the left side of my body. And another outcome of the surgeries was the fact that I couldn't understand music anymore. And when you can't understand music, you can't make music. So it was a very difficult time for me. My focus obviously was on my recovery, but when you can't talk to someone and you can't understand what someone's saying to you, you know, you're kind of trapped inside. Because cognitively, I wasn't unable to think. I knew that I couldn't say the things I wanted to. I was looking at people and I was aware that I couldn't understand people, had all these thoughts, and I didn't know how to communicate it. They would do neurological tests and they would ask me to put my right thumb to my left ear, and I could not do that. I didn't understand where my right thumb was. I didn't know how to put it to my left ear, and that was kind of the condition that I was in. So when I couldn't listen to music, when I realized that music didn't sound the same, I stopped listening to music. And in the same way that if there's a song you don't like, why are you going to listen to the song? And every song turned into a song I didn't like. It was heartbreaking, but at the same time, I just needed to focus on my recovery. I was like, you know, I'll worry about the music thing when the time comes. And so the easiest way to kind of describe how the music came back to me is to kind of describe how language came back, because they came back at the same time. And it was gradual. There was no light bulb moment. Basically, when I would speak, I could only use words from a small pool of words, or I can only speak from a small pool of words. And every day that pool would kind of increase, the level of grammar would increase. And eventually I was able to gain back all of my speech. And with the music, it was the same way. At first, it sounded harsh and metallic. Insane how something that I completely understood just sounded like noise and trash and garbage. It's hard to kind of comprehend, but each day that passed, I can tell music was it would start to make a little bit more sense. And even though I stopped actively listening to music, our entire world is surrounded by music, you know, on the street, in commercials, on the radio, you pass by a store, there's always music. And it just became this kind of sharp, pointy, ragged sound, and it started to soften until it made sense again and turned into this like beautiful song. And once I realized that music was starting to make sense and I could, you know, like put things on, listen to stuff and all that, I attempted to make music, and it was bad. You know, I could understand music again. I could listen to it, but not at the level that would allow me to start creating it again. And so I was a bit disappointed. And I knew that it didn't sound right. I couldn't understand levels. I couldn't understand why everything sounded so loud or quiet. I didn't know why I couldn't get that balance right. And I took a break again, you know, not for very long, just like a week, and reapproached it. And once I reapproached it, I was able to finally finish a song. And that song that I finished ended up being one of the first songs that ended up on my current album. And once I made that song, I was like, I'm good. Everything's going to be okay. That song is so important to me, and I would say was like that light at the end of the tunnel that I was searching for during this entire process, and I finally got there. And once I got there, it was just the whole world was open to me again. So there's no conventional way to describe what it's like to not understand music. But I would say if you just had your TV on white noise, everything kind of sounded like that, but worse. Yeah, you know. And I'm very positive about it now, but at the time, you know, I just like I knew I lost an important part of my life. And even if were to gain back my health and my language and all these things, what would I do without music? What would anyone do if you didn't have music in your life? It would just be heartbreaking, and you would have no soundtrack to live. And the joy I gained once I realized I could create and listen again was just insane. You know, I just try to make as much music, and I try to be as creative as possible. And I really gained a new insight on who I wanted to be as an artist, and that's an artist that just created for herself, not for other people. So, yeah.